This is Between Sundays, the podcast where Christians are trying to figure things out where most of life happens. I'm Bobby.
I'm Justice.
And today we're talking about why our faith is great when church is going on, when we're in the worship services, when we're at conference and all these things. But what happens when Monday rolls around and it just seems a little bit more difficult to live out that faith. And so we're looking forward to today's topic. We think kind of a real practical one today. And looking forward to shed a little light on how we can live out our faith Monday through Friday. And so, man.
Where's your hat at?
I know. I feel lost without my hat today. I really do.
So when we started this, you kind of made a big deal. He's like, I'm going to be the hat guy. I'm going to put my hat on.
I know.
You've got it in your drawer of your desk. Like, we never forgot it. It's like,
I have backups to my hat.
Backup to the backups, too. Yeah. I have seen you take a sticker off of a hat and put it on before we shot one time. And I was like, oh, he actually is playing into this hat guy pretty good. And then you sat in here today and was like, we just get stuff ready. And I noticed it. And I was like, he didn't take his hat off. He didn't bring one in here.
I know.
So we started going and you sat down and you was like, oh, I need to go get my hat. And I was like, oh, no, you're fine. Like, I was trying to play it off like I wasn't about to just bring it up.
Yeah, you were hoping.
No, I was hoping you was like, I kind of like even rage baited you a little bit. I was like, no, you're good. But I know I had to make fun of you about it whenever you forgot it.
I know.
This is the first time we've seen Bobby's forehead, everybody. Can we give it a round of applause? A round of applause for don't hit the wrong button.
No, I know. I'm not going to do it. I don't know which one it is. Yeah. I got to label those things one day. I might.
We do.
Yeah, just to make sure.
Have they changed any since season 1?
No, I just still forget which ones they are.
We got a few special ones on there.
Yeah, those are for special episodes, things like that. Yeah, I don't know if I just like draw a blank or stutter or stammer today, it's because I don't have my hat on.
Yeah,
it's like
it's his thinking cap.
It's like it very much so. I was gonna say security blanket. Yeah, see, I can't even talk at the moment because I don't have the hat on or anything. It feels weird.
You feel
today.
naked. Don't even look at them.
I know.
We'll just pan the camera. Just pan the camera over to me.
Yeah, we'll just put it on you. I'll just talk. I'll be a voiceover for the rest of the day. So, no, I mean, I do enjoy my ministry hats. I like the different sayings that are on them, and all that stuff. But it's okay. It's okay. We'll make it through the episode. It will make its appearance next time. So
good. So, thank goodness.
I know. We just had to give them a little. I guess I should have not worn it on the Bible Stories video, the episode.
Wow.
Well, we were talking about she wears then.
Oh, you went there. I wasn't going to go there, but you went there.
Well, I can go there.
Okay.
I can go. It's fine if I talk about it myself.
Okay.
It's just if anybody else does, that's when I pray for she wears.
That's when you pray that God's destruction be on them.
No youth have been harmed since the making of that episode. It's been close. But not quite. So.
Oh, no, but a good episode today. I'm excited about this one. I think this is something that even me, growing up in youth group, growing up in church, you kind of always go back to, if not careful, kind of a school you, youth group you. And, of course, we've talked about this several times, in past episodes, because a lot of it has to do with the same root problem. The same, when we boil everything down, what is the main thing of the way I'm feeling, or the way that I'm thinking, or the way that I'm hurting in this situation? Kind of everything boils down to the same thing, and even some of it within friend groups can be, man, I hope this friend group never meets this friend group, or I don't want these people to know about this that's going on. And I think really just being, we've said it I don't know how many times, being honest with ourselves and saying, this is who God made me to be, but at the same time, I don't have to be 100 different people for 100 different people.
Yeah.
I can be myself through it all, and really trying to navigate living out that faith that I think even before we get into this, even Paul, saying the things that I want to do, I don't do, and the things that I don't want to do, I do. And even this is at times...
If all that scripture wasn't so long, I'd make that into a T-shirt. But it's like,
yeah, and even great Christians, Paul and Elijah and David, all of these great men fell prey sometimes to faith in hard situations, not always becoming what they wanted it to become.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that, it's not anything new, but we struggle with today a lot of times.
Oh yeah, I think every Christian at some point in their walk with the Lord, in their faith that they live out, has dealt with this right here, because it is one of those things that, especially as a new Christian, it's so easy to do. We take kids every year to Arise Youth Conference, and we see God work. Man, we'll see Him down at the altars. We'll see God work in big ways. And then for us here at Temple, we go straight from Youth Conference into Jubilee at our church. So we have another 5 nights of revival, great preaching, great singing. And so we see this big spiritual mountaintop for about 2 weeks, either out of our own lives or our teenagers' lives. And then all of a sudden Monday rolls around after all of that.
Yeah.
And now they're faced with that. Well, I mean, all of us, faced with that big question of, well, what does Monday look like when I'm not in a conference center with 5,000 teenagers? Or what does Monday look like when I'm not in my church Jubilee services that we're seeing God work in big ways? And it's really learning how to live out. I mean, very much the reason we do this, of where most of life happens when Monday rolls around. And let's go ahead and get into this today as well. This ain't just for teenagers. This is for the adults, that when Monday rolls around and they get to work after having a great Sunday, how do I live that out? How do I, show them what God is doing in my life, when we all know it's easy to do it in the right environments? And that's the thing. Faith is always going to feel easy in the environments that are built for faith. When we're in church, when we're in youth group, when we're in conference, when we're in revival services, it's always going to be easier in those environments when it's built for that right there.
Sure.
But when we go to the secular job, when we go to the secular school, when we're in those environments that are not built for that, what does our faith look like?
Yeah. No, you definitely have. When I think about Arise, I think about an environment that, like you said, is built for faith to be encouraged. And I think when we get out of that type of situation, or we get sometimes even putting ourselves in situations we shouldn't be in, whether that be drama or, problems at school, or even problems at church, problems at home, and we stop thinking that my faith only shines whenever the situation is okay for it to.
Yeah.
And I think, for instance, like faith that is only expressed in certain situations isn't faith that is finished, but it's faith that's being developed.
Yeah.
And I think every single one of us are still continuously developing our faith, but at the same time, you have to say, okay, I'm going to put into practice what my Sunday held.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put into practice what I learned yesterday, and continuously, because I've worked a job before where, it was, kind of round robin of like, hey, what'd you do this week? And well, I did this, this, and this. I was like, well, what did you do? I did this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And it was like, what'd you do? I was like, I went to church, and
everybody's staring at you like,
and everybody's like, oh,
what's the big deal with
all right,
that?
well, what's the next person do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of boring, but it's not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy, but sharing your faith outside of times that it's easy is still doable.
Yes.
And sharing your faith outside of times that you really don't feel like you can is something that you can.
Yeah.
And just learning how to share your faith. And even within this, of course, we've got a verse here. I'll let you read that. But we could shut this whole episode down with this one quote saying, everyone should know you're Christian, especially your family.
Yeah.
And I think we hit that spot where we forget that our first ministry is our family. Our first ministry is the home. And I think if we had a lot more, I don't want to throw, unneeded darts at people. But if we had moms and dads that would really stand up and say, I'm going to show my children what a Christian is,
Yeah.
we would have a lot more Christians that are younger. We would have a lot more kids that are confident in being a Christian outside of that.
Yeah.
I think if we had a lot more grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles that really tried their best to be an example of Christ, we would have a lot more younger people being confident in sharing their faith. But I think whenever we get wrapped up in, this is my circle and I'm comfortable within my circle so I can let everything out. I think that's kind of the dangerous part of even younger people seeing the side that, we can be Christians when other people that we don't know very well are around. But when doors are closed, we don't have to be Christians anymore.
Yeah.
And I think really and truly that statement has been something I've tried to live out so much since I've heard. I think Brother Jason Hawley said it. It's been something I've tried to live out so much. And I'm not perfect at it, but it's when you realize that problem sometimes is there, that man, my family really couldn't tell that I was a Christian right then.
Yeah.
It really does kind of put a perspective on everybody else as well.
Yeah. And here's the reality we've got to accept, that we do need church. We need those environments. We need those things to help us, right? We need the worship on Sunday. We need the youth group on Wednesday. We need the revivals. We need the conferences. All of those are meant to point us toward God. We need to have the right people in our life. That's what we're talking about in Hebrews chapter 10, where the Bible says in verse 25, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much more as ye see the day approaching. We need that community. We need those people to encourage us. But at the same time, those people are only so much time out of the week. Those people are only certain days out of the week. And so when the Monday environments roll around that aren't designed for our faith, how do we live those things out? When we have school pressure or work pressure, when we have drama amongst our friend groups, when we have the stress of life, whether it be sports or whether it be deadlines, whether it be social media, which to me, that's just cut it off and don't deal with it for a while. But when we have all of those things, how do we deal with that stuff? That's when faith seems harder. That's when it's, how do I live this out? That's when we, maybe you're at a job where it's not, in their eyes, it's not the I don't want to say cool thing, but it's not the relevant thing is to be a Christian, and they're giving you a hard time for it. How do you still live out that faith? And that's, again, kind of what we want to help strengthen a little bit today, especially in some practical ways of just when church is done and when Monday rolls around, how do I, one, not be ashamed of my faith, but how can I live it out in a way that makes an impact in people's lives? Because really, truly and honestly, that is where ministry begins, is right there, is stepping into the workplace, stepping into the hallways of the schools, stepping into those moments, and letting God use our life to make a difference in somebody else's life. I love church. I love going to church. I love worship. I love all that stuff. But truly and honestly, I look at ministry as the other days of the week, when God gives us opportunity, whether it be, when we get to go to FCA, whether it be moments that we get, whether it's our kids on Wednesday night, when we're in youth group, those are the moments of ministry, and that's when God's called us to really live out this faith, and live for Him outside of the easy church moments. And a lot of Christians, they think, well, why does my faith feel stronger, fill in the blank, when it's at church, when it's at conference, when it's at all of those things, when it's at the moments where everybody's there. And a lot of that boils down to is what are we doing for our faith outside of outside of those moments. It's easy when, again, the environment is right, when the teaching's there, when the distractions are gone, when we're focused on God. It's easy to do those things, but when those things disappear, when we're not caught up in those moments or the revivals, where it all boils down to is you have to take ownership of your faith. Your faith has to become personal outside of those moments when Monday comes, if it's going to be something that you live out in this life.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we have, we live our faith with family or people that we're around a lot. We live our faith as, either an emotional roller coaster or basing it solely on emotions or, our environment of what's going on. And I think the first thing that you have to say, okay, I do feel like, my faith wavers. I feel like I do kind of switch teams sometimes and feel like I've got really good days and really bad days. And I think realizing that your faith is grounded in not a situation or a circumstance, but your faith is grounded in a person, is grounded in Christ. You really stop putting your, that's the best way I can say it, you really stop putting your problem or your environment under the magnifying glass, but you really put Christ at the center of what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And you can really start, I don't want to say expressing more Christ, but you can start saying this isn't about my situation. I think sometimes we can get to a place where we are we get to a place where we're chasing that spiritual high almost. Yep. of it's just a feel good, and then I stop feeling good, and then I've got to go to another revival or I have to go to another church service. And I think that is a dangerous place to be, because your faith is only strong when your environment is strong.
Yeah.
And I think it's dangerous when we stop putting our focal point on Christ and say, He is the firm foundation. He's the one that's not changing. He is my refuge. He is my faith. And really basing Him solely off the fact that He never changes, no matter what my circumstance is, no matter what happens. I think, too, about, I don't even know if we have this. I don't think we do. I think about, Jesus, whenever He sent the disciples out on the boat. And He sends the disciples out on the boat, and, He says, I'm gonna go pray. You go ahead and get out on the boat. And they get out on the boat, and, the wind starts going, and the waves start going, and the rain starts coming, and they start panicking and wondering what they're going to do. Well, the reality is, and we've heard this story preached I don't know how many times. The reality is Christ knew the situation He was sending them to.
Yeah.
And it was, again, we said this last week, I'll say it again, I'll say it next week. The problem was never about the problem. The problem still had a focal point, which was Christ. Christ is the center of everything. And Christ knew that He was sending them out into that storm. And we see the story play out where they think they see a ghost or a spirit, and Peter says, Lord, if it's really You, bid me come on the water. And it wasn't the fact that he started sinking, it was the fact that what his faith was relying on in that situation was changing with the circumstances. He was having a good time, bad time, good time, bad time. Everything's happening so fast. And I think a lot of times we give Peter a lot of shade for sinking when the reality is nobody else cared to wonder if Christ was in the middle of their situation.
But the reality is all of us probably would have sank in that too.
Well, there's that side, and then there's the reality that some of us probably never would have gotten out of the boat.
Yes, yeah.
And I think, looking at it from the standpoint that Peter wanted his foundation, and he said his foundation was Christ, but he still lives this up and down. And I think and maybe we need to go back and take this part out after I think about it for a little bit. But I think our faith a lot of times is like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
The ones that get off, the ones that get hurt are the ones that jump off. And you're going to have times where you're going to be low, and there's going to be times that you're going to be, on a mountaintop. But staying consistent is important, knowing that, my situation may change, my faith may be higher some days than other days. And again, you having bad days doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human.
Yeah.
But knowing that even though my circumstance, my situation is going up and down and up and down, I feel like my faith is going up and down. Christ has always been the same, always will be the same, and he knows what I'm going through because he sent me there. And, I think when we stop putting our faith in a circumstance that changes, we talked about it last week again, within the friend groups of, what does my identity lie in? When we start making Christ the focal point of everything, it's never about you, it's always about him. You really start seeing, okay, it's possible. I didn't think it was possible, but it's possible for me to live this faith out the way that Christ wants me to live it out. And, faith isn't something that's supposed to be just an emotional high. It's supposed to be something that lasts.
Yeah.
And I think getting to that point of saying, Christ, I don't understand, but I'm trusting. And we read over and over and over where different people in the Bible said, I have no idea why this is happening.
Yeah.
But Lord, if you're with me, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
And I think getting us to the spot where I think too many times we have situations happen and we throw in the towel and we say, forget it.
Yeah.
If this is what it's about, I'm not going to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And that is faith that is based on circumstances.
Yeah.
That was never strong faith to begin with.
Yeah. Well, you look at the disciples, you were just bringing up in moments that they had with Christ. A lot of times in Scripture, we'd see this great moment that they had with Jesus, and then sometimes it often led to the storms, or it led to the moments. And oftentimes you saw, man, they're just on board with Christ when it's going great.
Yeah.
And then in the storm, we see almost little moments of this lack of faith as well. And you can really look at both accounts, or different accounts of them being on a boat. There's something about boats and them in storms. They got times where Jesus was with them in the boat and their faith is lacking, or times like this where he sends them off, and you almost wonder, did he send them off on their own in this case to see what their faith was?
Yeah.
Because again, if our faith is based on the moments, it's always going to be determined by something else rather than the growth that we personally have in God. And that's what I love about, I know especially here at our church, of this focal point of discipleship, because at the end of the day, I look at our teenagers, I don't want their faith to be strong just when they're in youth group. I want their faith to be strong when they graduate.
Yeah.
I don't want their faith to be limited, or the foundation of it just be a Wednesday night service when it's going good.
Yeah.
And thank the Lord for our Wednesday nights when God's moving and things like that. But I want them to know that they can still have that faith outside of those services. I don't want it to be just like you said, a conditional faith or anything. I want them to take ownership of it. I want it to be something that is not determined when there's, like we've talked about at conference, when there's 3,000 people or 5,000 people. I don't want it to be based off of just a service or a jubilee or this. I want it to be something personal in their life. And it's getting to that place of understanding we need church. We need those moments. We need, just like the disciples, they needed those big moments when Christ did something. Mm-hmm. But all of those things, whether it's youth group, whether it's church, whether it's a conference, whether it's a revival service, all of those are meant to be the training grounds for us to go out and go live out our faith. I remember my home church, and I guess I never understood this phrase until I got older, but I got reminded of it on the topic we're talking about today. But my home church, and I don't know if your church would have had it or if you've been in churches like this, but every week we'd walk out, I'd turn around, go out the back doors of our church, a little country church up in North Carolina, and it says, "You are now entering the mission field." And I was like, why they got that up there? I just never understood it. But I see that now because
Yeah.
everything that happened in that Sunday morning service, the worship, the message, the challenge that our pastor gave, all of that was meant for me to implement that into my life, to go out those doors and live out my faith so that because here's the thing, what good, and I don't want to say this like it's not a good thing, but what good is our faith doing inside the church only with all the other saved people? We got to take it out there and let people know about what God has done in our life. And so what does that real faith look like outside of youth group, outside of church? That's what we've got to get down to, of how do we live this out in this life. And it's not gonna look like church.
Yeah.
It's gonna be quieter. It's not gonna always have the feeling like a revival service or a conference or things like that. But that's okay. We're still called to live this faith outside of the moments of like I said, I love church at the end of the day. But guess what? Monday was rolling around, and I've got to learn how to live out that faith. I've got to learn when I go to the store or when I go do this. My wife works for a hospital system. When she's in there with doctors and nurses and patients and things like that, when it's not the choir singing and everything going great, how do you live out your faith in that? So what does that look like for us? Well, it may be just choosing integrity at school or work when nobody else is choosing that. It could be turning to God when we're stressed in our moments. It could be saying no to temptation. It could be opening up our Bible when we think nobody's watching, maybe at lunchtime. It's little things like that, right? Praying when we're going through moments, even if it's the chance of somebody else seeing it. It's little things like that that allow our faith to become real outside of youth group or outside of church when we're just around people in this everyday life.
Yeah, I think faith becomes real when it's lived.
Yes.
And, kind of what you were saying a second ago is I love people that take notes during the message. And but if it only lives on paper, what good was it? If we're going to church to learn more about Christ, and we walk out the same way we walked in, what was the point? And that goes back again to the environment that we think we have to be in for our faith to grow.
Yeah.
Isn't a church service a lot of times. It could be you walking in wondering how you're going to pay these bills, or getting that phone call with bad news, and really you're the rubber meeting the road on your faith and saying, this isn't what I would have chose for myself, but this is what the Lord chose, and by His grace I'm going to get through it.
Yeah.
And there's so many circumstances and so many situations that I think about in my life where it would have been probably the easy thing to throw in the towel, but having people in my life that went to church and that had been through those things to say, no, you can get through this.
Yeah.
Is really, really been a help that's strengthened my faith.
Yeah.
Because again, you go back to the disciples. In that moment, they thought their life was coming to an end. We have situations that happen in our life, and we think our life's coming to an end. And, the news that you never thought you'd get, or, this person leaves and that person leaves, or you don't understand why that person's doing what they're doing. But then you go and you live your faith out then.
Yeah.
Not inside the church walls. The church is where we come to worship Christ. Outside of the church is where we go to show others Christ.
Yes.
And when we get those flip-flopped, a lot of times we'll try to be a better person for the people that are Christians than we do for the world. And I think we have a hard time sharing our faith outside of those situations because we've got a lot of things backwards.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of things where I am supposed to be a Christian when no one's watching, and I am supposed to be a Christian when times are tough, but still having my foundation as Christ and saying He's not changing, no matter what my circumstance holds, I still can always fall back on Him.
Yeah.
So I think, faith really does become real when it's lived.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of like I was thinking while you're talking. I remember years ago, we were still living outside of Aiken, South Carolina when I was pastoring. And for about 3 or 4 years there, Heather and I, we were pretty regular in Gold's Gym there, things like that. Well, I had never worked out really in a gym setting up until that point. I just never did when I was at home. And then I went to a smaller Christian school, so it's not like we had weight room or things like that when, we had like regular PE, but we didn't have like a weight room like some of the public schools do. And so I never forget, I sign up, and like with anything, they're trying to get you to buy all the perks and do all the things. Well, I got a trainer for a little bit. It was like part of my package that I had. Well, I got this guy named Ronnie. Ronnie's a big guy. Ronnie knows what he's talking about.
Ronnie Coleman?
Right? Maybe, I don't know. But no, I mean, Ronnie, super nice guy. And
I thought this was where it was going.
No,
Man, that got me a little excited there for a second.
So I mean, he and he's not. I didn't know what to expect going into it. All I seen is like trainers on TV shows where they're like yelling at you, making you feel like the worst.
The biggest
being
loser.
ever. Yeah, yeah. Like if I even just look at a donut, like they're just gonna yell at me for an hour. So Ronnie, we're talking and all that stuff, and he's training and everything. Well, what I'm getting at was this: is those moments, those things were meant to build up my life. Obviously, literally build up strength. Why? So that I can use it in other places.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. It's not like, it's not like I had these sessions with Ronnie and I'm getting stronger. And then let's say next time I go to Lowe's or Home Depot and I've got to go lift something heavy. It's not like I can be like, hey, Ronnie, dude, I'm over here at Home Depot. I need you to meet me over here and motivate me and yell at me so I can pick up this bag of Quikrete to get it in the, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's a dumb way of looking at it. But how many of us, we get what God has for us at church, and then we walk out the doors and we're like, well, man, I just can't live this out because preacher's not preaching it to me right now. Or, if I'm going to be spiritual today, I got to have my whole church choir singing while I'm at work. Yeah. So all the emotions feel good. And I know that's a dumb way to look at it, but that's kind of how it kind of hits home of like, church, we need it. I needed Ronnie in the gym. I needed him to show me how to do things. But guess what? I wasn't in session every day with Ronnie, and I had to go do things that required strength or lifting. Same with church. I'm not in church every day. I can put on a playlist, and I can listen to other things, and I can listen to preaching. But it's that environment that it's all of that together that helps build my faith. Mm-hmm. Why? So that when Monday rolls around, I can take and live that out and be practical in those things. And like I said, it was just something simple that kind of hit me through it. But, James chapter 1 says it perfectly. We got to be doers of the word, not just hearers only. Take it all in. Get what your pastor's giving you, all of that stuff. But you got to put it to the test. You got to work it out in your faith when Monday rolls around. I mean, that's just the simple matter of it. And, I guess as we kind of help drive this home today, some of these episodes we love just kind of being practical and things, just kind of giving a few little things that can help you. And, maybe you need help growing your faith outside of church. So how do I do this at work? How do I do this, when it's not in church? Well, first thing, right off the bat, you got to make it personal. You got to build that personal time with God. Faith grows when it's personal. Mm-hmm. When it's understanding, I can get something from God even though it's not in a sermon, or I can get something from God even though it's not in a worship service or a conference. But in my Bible reading or my prayer time, looking back, and it may be thinking over what your pastor preached on Sunday, and that's perfectly fine. But you've got to make it personal. You've got to have those things that'll help you to take it from just a group thing or a corporate thing that we do in church to something personal that helps you in your everyday life.
Sure.
If we don't start making our faith personal as to saying, I can do this outside of church and I can live this faith out outside of those environments and those moments, then we're always going to be dependent on those moments. We're always going to be dependent on those situations.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think your personal time with Christ is important, because if not careful, we'll be studying for a lesson that we have to teach, or we'll be praying for a circumstance that's happening with someone else's life, or we'll tell somebody we'll pray for them and we don't. But
yeah,
when it becomes personal, we really do try our hardest to put Christ at the middle.
Yeah.
Put Christ at the center. And I think the first step to living life as a Christian outside of just church is, of course, making him the focal point when you're not at church.
Yeah.
Everyone knows when I go to church on Monday who I'm going to church for. But when I'm going to work on Monday, who am I going to work for?
Yeah.
And whenever I go to, this or that, or I go to that ball field, who am I going for? And really making Christ the focal point of everything, where even people know that, I think of a guy I used to work with, and, it was, he was a Christian company that I worked for, but he was a pastor. He pastored a church, and there was a lot of, just because it's a Christian company doesn't mean Christian people work there.
Yeah.
But there was me and him, and there was people that would go out of their way not to cuss around us, and it's not like that's like, oh, we convicted them about it, but it was because we didn't cuss.
Yeah.
It was we tried to live out Christ in our workplace.
Yeah.
And there was people, of course, that went out of their way not to do that. But I mean, if you're joining in with the Monday crowd, how do they know that Christ is your focal point in life?
Absolutely.
If you're joining in on the work gossip or the water cooler gossip, how do they know that you're who you say you are? Because the best person that can sniff out a Christian fraud is a lost person.
Yeah.
And they will be sure that they will find you out.
Yeah.
Because, it's not to say that you're not going to slip up and sin every once in a while, but are you instigating it? Are you adding to it?
Yeah.
Or are you showing what Christ looks like? And I think number one, keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
I think too we've wrote down a couple. I think we wrote down 3 here.
Yeah.
Let's see. You said a personal time with God. We've got choosing the right voices. We've talked some about not letting your environment dictate what your faith looks like, but your environment still matters.
Yeah.
You still have an obligation to be around the people that you need to be around. That's why I think a church family, if you're not a part of church, get involved in a church.
Yes.
Get involved with good people that are like-minded and wanting Christ at the center of everything. Yeah. That really determines, who influences you during the week. Is that friends, social media, work, people, mentors, people that you look up to, heroes. What is your environment really looking like? Because your faith always has to be present no matter what the circumstance is. But I think sometimes we make our faith work extra hard or overtime when we put ourselves in bad situations and bad circumstances. And, really part of the problem, with, a fear of not being in the bad situations is just simply not going to the bad situations. You know, a lot of times I think we find our own problems, and we contribute a lot to our own problems just by simply not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But no, I'll let you take number 3. But number 2 being, number 1, of course, your personal time with God, and number 2, you know, whose voices are you listening to throughout the week?
Yeah. Well, I think that all that goes great into what we're talking about in the third one of just staying connected to the right environments, because there's two sides of that coin with environments. There's the things that influence us. Well, how do we combat that? Well, by making sure that we have the right environment to build us up. And so, like you said just a second ago, if you're not in a good church, if you're not, for students, in a good youth group, if you're not, maybe you don't have people in a discipleship group or things like that, all of those things are going to help to make it where you go influence the environment, not the environment influence you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we want. We need Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I need it. I mean, you and I, we're teaching Bible class throughout the week. We're preaching to teenagers. There's a lot of us pouring ourselves out to others that we need Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Like I look at it this, when I walk into our church on Sunday, yeah, I'll always still be the youth pastor when I walk in, but I need church just as much as everybody else does. Why? So that when Monday does roll around, that I'm doing what I can to get what I need to be the influence and not letting the work week influence me in the wrong way. And so we've got to stay connected to that community of Christians that God's blessed us with. Because again, let's acknowledge this, the church isn't the walls, it's the people within the walls.
Sure.
So we've got to stay connected to those things. Don't isolate yourself. It amazes me the people that call themselves a Christian and church is almost a secondary thing to them or something they think they can do without. And that's not the case. I need those people. I need that encouragement.
A Christian loves what Christ loves.
Yeah.
And Christ loves the church.
Yes.
And you will never convince me that you isolating yourself helps you in any way possible.
No.
It will not, it has not, and never will benefit you by being by yourself and being isolated.
Yeah.
And you go back to times where you feel like, I just don't feel like I want to go to church today. And, you know, I think that really is something the devil tries to weed sheep out and tries to split them from the herd of saying, you can miss today.
Yeah.
But go back to being a Christian is loving what Christ loves, and Christ loves the church.
Yes.
And don't think isolation is delusional. It's not productive.
Yeah.
Don't think you're going to live a good, successful Christian life and not go to a good local church.
Yeah.
Because that's what Christ loves.
Yeah.
Christ loves the church and gave himself for it. You're not gonna win that argument with me of making it sound good that the church is just a bunch of sinners and I can get God at home. It's like, well,
I mean,
yes and yes.
Yeah.
But that's a lazy way of thinking.
Well, I mean, think about just what somebody praying for you on Sunday has done. If you've gone down to an altar or anything like that, or maybe you're going through an issue and somebody else is going through an issue, and all of a sudden you're seeing them worship God, and you're thinking, well, man, I know what they're going through, but they're still having a good time in the Lord. Imagine how that encourages you. You would not get that on your own.
Yeah.
So we've got to have those things. And one of the things I think we got to stop doing is stop looking at church and youth group as an event, but it is support for us. It's help for us. It's not just a time on the calendar. It's not just a date out of the week that we go check the box off for. It's support. It's help for us. We've got to have.
You're not a good person by attending church service.
Yeah, no.
That doesn't make you any more spiritual of a person.
No. But it is what God gives us to help us in those moments. And here's the thing: if God made it a point in Scripture to talk about how important the church is, then why isn't it important enough to us to go? And again, if we're going to be able to get through those things, we've got to have those moments. It gives us accountability. It gives us encouragement. It reminds us of things. It is a help for us, but that is not where our faith stops.
Yeah.
Because again, Lord willing, and Monday's going to come, and we've got to know how to be able to live out that faith. And let me say this to encourage you: if living out your faith does feel harder outside of Sunday or outside of youth group, you're not failing.
Yeah.
You're not messed up.
Welcome to life.
Well, yeah, welcome to life. Welcome to this Christian life. You're going to mess up. There are going to be days where you don't feel it. Let's go ahead and say that right there. I'll say this out there. Look at me wrong if you want to, whatever it may be. Okay?
We will.
There have been days I have not felt being a Christian. Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, y'all might just cancel me right there. There have been days I hadn't felt like it, but it doesn't mean I'm not supposed to.
Yeah.
It just means that life's a little tougher then.
Yeah.
But you know what I take from it? I take what God's given me, or I'm reminded of something God showed me at church or something like that, or maybe something I've seen in my personal Bible study, and I go out and I live it anyway. That's all we can do. It's just living life. It doesn't mean you're failing. It just means you're living life, and that's all that we can do. But here's the thing. Life was never meant to be lived solely inside the church.
Sure.
Life was it's always meant to go outside of that. I'm reminded of the scripture that we use for our youth group, Colossians 2, 6, and 7. It says, "As ye have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk ye in him. You are called to live out this faith." But it says this, "Rooted and built up in him, and established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving." Rooted and built up. You look at any tree, what is part of the beauty of it is the fact that it branches out.
Yeah.
Is the fact that it is meant to
What
be
was that verse
taken
again?
in. Colossians 2, 6, and 7.
No, okay. I just had to that.
Now where everybody is checked out. They're all
no,
cringe
we're
by
done.
that right
We're
there.
done.
But again, the beauty of a tree, whether it gives off shade, whether it gives off fruit,
Uh-huh.
any of those things, even just the blooms of it, if there's beauty in it, would never be seen if it branched out.
Yep.
Would never be seen if it was something that didn't grow and was seen. Because think about this, all that beauty, all the fruit, all the shade, all of that is within inside that seed.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd never know it unless that seed broke open
Yeah.
and we could see it.
Yeah.
And that's what we're called to do in this faith, is live it out. Listen, Monday matters,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I'm going to say it again. Monday matters. Whether it's God using your life to show somebody the gospel, whether it's God using your life to encourage somebody that's going through a hard time, Monday matters. And guess what? We need some Christians out there that are willing to acknowledge that and say, you know what? I need to live this faith out so that I can make a difference in this world around me.
It's good.
And so, guys, we hope this has been an encouragement to you. We know a little bit, kind of more of a practical episode today, talking about living out our faith. But again, God will help you through it, and God will give you everything that you need. And if you're saved out there and you know Jesus Christ, guess what? You've got all that you need to live out this faith when Monday rolls around. And we you know, maybe there's a part of it you're struggling with. If there is, let us know, right? One, we want to pray for you. But two, maybe we can put something else out there that'll encourage you and help you to live out your faith. Because I get it. It can be a scary thing. It can be intimidating. But again, Monday matters. People need to know what God's done in your life. And this church doesn't just live within the walls. They need to see what God is doing in your life. So, guys, we appreciate y'all. Hope this has been a help to you. Message us. Let us know if there's a way we can pray for you. Maybe there's a place you're struggling to live out your faith. Maybe it's at school. Maybe it's at work. But, guys, we're praying for you. We love you. And we hope that you learn to live out this faith Monday through Saturday. And as we say, where most of life happens.
Yep.
So, guys, we appreciate y'all. Love you.
Appreciate y'all. This episode was brought to you by Bobby's Forehead.
I need my hat back.
You do, please.